Well, thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. Good morning, and it's yet another day wherein the global markets are looking a bit iffy. So it'll be interesting to see if the Indian markets follow suit, or do we chart our own course as we have for the last few days. The global news flow first. China has vowed to crack down on hostile forces, in their words, as the police deter the protests that are stemming up. In fact, after the weekend, the protests haven't been as strong because the police bandobast, as they say, has been pretty strong in China against these protests. Asia stocks are likely to track or are tracking the US markets drop amidst the focus on Fed and China. And the Fed, because there is a address from Jerome Powell today. So I think ahead of that, there will be a little bit of nervousness. Oil has risen for a third day on the OPEC plus cut chatter, as well as the falling stockpiles in the US. And India's GDP data for quarter two set to be released today. All eyes out on that, because if the GDP data is not very strong, then the chatter around rate hikes in India too might get a bit slow, which is actually a good sign. So let's wait and watch for all of these. But like I said, the US markets driving the sentiment around Asia today, and the US markets in yesterday's session, uh, kind of the Nasdaq in particular didn't have a particularly great day. So you had about a 0.5% drop there. The Dow and the S&P mixed, but largely lackluster. The other cues, I didn't think there was too much of change out there. I mean, the dollar index at 103, US 10-year yield at 3.73. So tracking the 3.7 mark, CBO VIX about 22. So no great changes out there. The SGX Nifty on your screen next. And remember, we've defied what the start of the global cues has been. The markets have defied what the SGX Nifty is indicated per se. And again, a flattish trend indicated. So we'll chart our own course. But while the SGX Nifty has been talking about being flat on all of the last few days, we moved very silently, or actually not silently, with a bit of a bang, moved from 18,300 to 18,700 or thereabouts, the all-time high levels. And different forces have come into play, right? I mean, we kind of, as my colleague Muralidhar Swaminathan was pointing out yesterday in the newsroom, uh, it's been a bit of a shifting of the hats. RIL played its part, FMCG's plays its part, and out of the blue yesterday, right? I mean, while the Parle management did talk about the rural demand looking strong, nobody quite anticipated just sudden up move that came into some of the FMCG stocks yesterday. So good show there. So net, India uptrend is looking strong, but rising oil prices might dent optimism. Keep in mind, third day on a trot now, we've had oil prices moving up, and while they are not at abnormally high levels, which can cause too much of discomfort, but India typically can do with lower oil prices per se. The metal index, did you know this? I mean, just think about it. We're talking about high beta, we're talking about some of the usual suspects coming back. Metal index is up over 9% in the month of November thus far. It's been a splendid series for metals, and it's continued so to say. The question is, can it last, or will it buckle down now? Uh, but the point is, I think many an expert have said that the biggest thing for metal companies had been the export tax, and since that has been removed, even if there was not as much demand, that tax moving by itself from a sentiment perspective also would have been positive, according to a lot of experts, and I think that's how it is playing out currently. On the FMCG rally as well, it's very unlikely to be short-lived, right, viewers? Because stocks rising after a fairly long lull, and therefore you would presume that the rally may well continue. It will not be just a one-day rally. Even if there is a bit of a pause today or a breather today, it's not very likely that it's not going to be a very short-lived one. In fact, can we focus a bit on the sector first before we talk about some of the other things? So frankly, it is the rural recovery chatter which is upping the sentiment of FMCG stocks, right? Yesterday, you saw high cash market buying into names like Dabur and HUL for sure, but some of the others too. Think about this. For Dabur, the traded volumes were about 7.2 times the weekly average, with delivery quantity about 43.72%. HUL is now trading above its 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average together. The cash delivery volumes were at 48%. It was not just HUL and Dabur. HUL was 48%, Dabur was 43.72%. ITC was 53.4%. It didn't move too much, but it was up 53. I mean, the delivery volumes are 53.4%. GCPL was 34.85%. So fairly strong delivery-based buying that we saw in some of the FMCG majors yesterday, and which is why I say that it may not necessarily be a short-lived move into FMCG names. There's also primary market activity. The Dhamraj IPO is getting subscription and left, right, center. So that's been an interesting one. Like I said, that I mean, there was one house which had said a subscribe, but just that there was optimism around there. Uniparts is the other one. Even though they've reduced the issue size, there seems to be optimism here. It's an 835 crore IPO, which opens today. Price band is at 548 to 577. They've raised about 250 crores from anchor investors already. So that is actually a positive thing as well. And a bunch of very smart names out there. And from a sell side as well, Motilal Oswal, BP Wealth have recommended a subscribe on Unipart. So therefore, that's one more stock, one more IPO to keep in mind. The primary market action is so I'm keeping as far as India goes. So aside of metals, aside of primary markets, aside of FMCG, what are the stocks to monitor today? Well, I will watch out for Zomato. Okay, interesting. I'll watch out for Zomato. Alibaba is supposedly going to sell about $200 million worth of Zomato stock via block deal. This amounts to about 3%. This is as per information with CNBC TV 18. We don't have it. The Bloomberg wires don't have it, but CNBC TV 18 put out this news flash yesterday. So, with the presumption that it's true, Zomato, therefore, as a stock could be in focus, so do watch out for that. Gland Pharma, as per Bloomberg, Fosun, which is the parent, is set to mull sale of Gland Pharma, and the potential sale has apparently attracted industry players as well as buyout firms. Now, on its part, Gland Pharma, the listed stock, yesterday put out clarification to the exchange that they were not aware of any such thing, but you would expect that that's the kind of announcement that will come in, irrespective of whether there is a sale mulling happening or not, right? I mean, that's the they are a listed entity. They would not give out details before it's true, and it may well happen that the parent is doing it on its part. But yeah, here's the news flow came in from Bloomberg. Just thought I should bring it to you. Gland is also in news because it's also made an acquisition worth 1,770 crores. By the way, that's a large one as well. I haven't got it here, but so two pieces of news out there. Watch out for Gland Pharma today. Watch out for Biocon. Biocon Biologics has completed the acquisition of the biosimilars business and assets of Viatris. This was known and expected. I just thought I should bring it out. Bandhan Bank was up and active in trade yesterday. Has been raised to a buy at CLSA with a target price of 300. Do watch out for this one. Watch out for Dreamfolks. The lock-in period for partial equity for Dreamfolks Services, which is about 7.4% of equity, ended yesterday, and therefore that stock will be available for selling today. It's gained about 13.4% since its listing has Dreamfolks, and therefore you may not necessarily see that people are dying to get out of the stock. So that is actually a small positive. So do watch out for that as well. I'll watch out for Lotus Labs. Was big bummer in trade yesterday. And MK, of course, came out with this small piece of quantitative research. I mean, about 52-week low because it declined on margin concerns expressed by Kotak. Not something that's come from the company, of course. But this is the MK view, so I'm bringing you as is. It's stock, of course, decreased by 10% in 1 month. Currently trading below its short-term and long-term moving averages. MK believes the downward moving RSI and market sentiment could further push the stock by 2 to 3% before witnessing any reversal. A lot of people might be keen to go out and maybe get into some of these stocks. Just thought should bring it to your notice that MK quantitative research believes that there is some more downside for Lotus, not no immediate upsides necessarily. Maybe it'll do some more before it can reverse. So let's watch out for all of these. By the way, amongst oil and gas, right, the Kirit Parikh Committee on Gas Pricing will submit a report to the government today. They recommend a complete liberalization of natural gas pricing by 1st January 26 and suggested price cap for APM gas, including ONGC and Oil India, that is. So it'll be interesting to see if what these recommendations are, how do they get, how do I say, accepted or whatever, and on what lines that do some of these reforms happen. But these will be meaningful if they were to go ahead. And once these reforms get tabled today, I think we'll talk to experts to try and understand what this would mean. So very important development to watch out for today. So, today is a big day, viewers, right? I mean, sorry, just before I get to how big a day today is, IDFC, I'll watch out for that. SEBI's approved change in control of IDFC Mutual Fund. And from amongst brokerages, the side of CLSA on Bandhan Bank, Morgan Stanley has a note on delivery with a upgrade to an overweight, even though the target has been cut to 450 from 520. So these are a few things to watch out for um, as far as stocks go. Uh, of, there's some. It's a big day today. There's GDP data coming out from India. Some other macro data coming out from our end. There's the credit panel recommendations, so that is important. There's the Fed, the Jerome Powell talk, so that is important to monitor as well. As if our markets were not, because there's lots happening there. And yeah, so it's a big day, and some of these could have repercussions for individual pockets as well as for the entire market trade tomorrow as well, the weekly expiry. So important to watch out for. As a Mumbaiker, I'm happy that the Dharavi project is Dharavi is getting redeveloped. I mean, it's a large slum, Asia's largest slum. Maybe Adani Enterprises could become a stock in focus. I don't know, but aside of what it does to a stock per se, really, from my perspective, it is about the fact that this large slum, which I've seen since I've been born. I've been, whatever, northwards of 40 years in Mumbai, uh, born, brought up here, and I've seen this slum. And it'll be great to see that huge mammoth area getting an uplift in its standard of living. So certainly hoping to see this getting consummated sooner rather than later. Uh, it'll be amazing. As a Mumbaiker, as anybody who would come and see what Asia's largest slum was and what it will be, hopefully a few years down the line. Thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup today. Have a safe day ahead. A bunch of conversations lined up. We'll be speaking to Ravi Dharamshi of Value Quest. They have been very active off late in the markets, talking about what to do with specifics. I mean, where they have fished into specific stocks, including some spec chem names. So lovely talking to him today. Bhanu Prakash Srivastava of BEL, and we continue with our series on defense and what is the on-ground situation with defense names and the order inflow, etc. So BEL will be talking to us. So that will be an interesting conversation as well. We'll do some conversations around what's happening with the aviation deal or aviation merger that was announced yesterday of sorts. Vistara, Air India, Singapore Airlines, all of them in the fray. What does it mean for those companies and those airlines and the industry at large? So that is something that we'll talk about as well today sometime. So you might want to tune in for all of those. And of course, a mutual fund show later on at 4 p.m. So do tune in for that as well. Thanks for being with us today.